In Nigeria, January's headline inflation, due to be released next week, is likely to hit possibly 12% threshold, according to analysts' forecasts. If this is accurate, probably means that inflation has increased. Well, it has means inflation has increased for 5 consecutive months. Now, this would be a major concern for policymakers. Monetary Policy Committee at its last meeting emphasized the determination of the CBN to rein in inflation because of its negative impact on GDP growth and unemployment. Analysts also expect food and core inflation to rise respectively. Joining me in the studio for more is analyst from financial derivatives, Mr. NOSIKE NWAJIDE. NOSIKE, you're welcome, sir. Welcome to the Global Business Report. So, are you one of those analysts that are predicting that inflation, which is at what, 11.98 for December, is going to hit 12% and possibly even skip over 12%? What are you seeing?
We're seeing, we're predicting from our survey, because we went to the markets to, check out the prices. We predict that inflation will rise by 7 basis points for January, so taking it to about 12.05%.
Okay. And
driving this is basically the same things that have driven the 5 consecutive months of increase.
Yes.
The border closures, the forex restrictions. The borders were closed in sometime in August.
Yes, yes.
Seeing the price of staples rise, the rice, the turkey, the chicken.
Yes.
Okay, that is projected to continue as long as the borders remain closed, because Nigeria has basically, we don't have the capacity to meet domestic demand. So, but in the time since August, I mean, we've managed to increase that capacity by it's been considerable. There's been some considerable increase.
Marginal.
It's marginal.
Marginal. All right, that's our inflation rate for December there. Yes,
yeah.
That's from the central bank, along with exchange rate, NPR, and actually that crude oil price. And the central bank need to update their website. That's down to 50, 53, 54. All right, so you're seeing these same conditions continue to play out.
Continue, even if the effects are waning. Like I said, there's been some increase in capacity to meet domestic demand. The base effects basically play. Inflation. These inflation numbers are year-on-year figures, basically. Yes. So it's January inflation measured against January last year.
Yes.
Month-on-month inflation is a more accurate prediction of.
Okay, I'm seeing your expectations now. All right.
So month-on-month inflation is predicted to fall.
Okay.
Basically, over Christmas, there was an increase in aggregate demand.
Festive period.
Good so stuff. As we enter January, people have less money to spend, so to speak. So you spend less. Even companies close, carry out maintenance, and manufacturers carry out maintenance over Christmas, and then we see an increase, basically a decrease in production over Christmas. Then in January, things begin to improve. The FBN PMI for January also shows that there was a decline in production and all of that.
Yeah.
So the major drivers of inflation falling are the forex restrictions, the border closures. Now CBN and its unorthodox policies, the LDRs. We've seen basically credit to the private sector rise.
Just for our listeners, LDR, of course, is the
loan to deposit ratio.
Loan deposit ratio. Thank you, sir. All right, carry on.
CBN has tried to basically make the banks lend more to Nigerians, so that they can
the real sector.
To the real sector. In quotes.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
But obviously the constraints to production. Lower interest rates or high interest rates is one constraint to production. There's the constraints that the CBN can't tackle. The infrastructure, the insecurity, those constraints linger. So if inflation happens if there's increased liquidity, increased money supply, and there's not increased output to match that increase in money supply, then it's
an imbalance.
And it's inflationary.
Boom.
It's that simple. So output is still constrained by other factors that the CBN really can handle. So when it sits down in its Monetary Policy Committee and you try to increase CR to take out all that liquidity, you still, you do what you can.
Right.
So the rest, fiscal policy, the fiscal authorities and, trade policy, the federal government needs to sit down, look, how can we solve the other constraints to output, basically, infrastructure. The power.
Yeah.
Power is, alternative energy.
Yes.
It costs as much as 3 times the what's the public supply, public power supply.
Talking about the South African president, he's promising the same thing, saying the all renewable energy thing, but the costs that you mentioned are the same costs Nigeria will face and the same costs South Africa, anybody else in the African continent wants to do to get into this renewable energy will face as well.
Yes, but I think their situation is really not as dire as ours. But the thing is, Nigerian businesses have over time, adjusted to the status quo. The public power supply access to public power supply is limited. I mean, so you have to generate your own power. This comes at an extra cost, which you pass on to the consumer.
Final consumer.
Yeah. Then there's the aggregate demand. Over the supply side, aggregate demand is constrained to an extent. So, and even this time of the year, aggregate demand has also been constrained. So, and like I mentioned about the CBN's policy, so interest rates have fallen.
Right.
Now, a lot of people would use interest income. A lot of people have maybe huge deposits. They buy treasury bills, and at the end of the year, you might make 500,000 a month.
Yes.
But these lower interest rates have constrained that such that you earn from 500, maybe you're earning 100,000.
Right.
So interest income is constrained. So aggregate demand has sort of been affected. What we saw was what we're predicting is a 7 basis points increase in inflation. In October, it was 36 basis points.
It's one of the highest increases we've seen recently, right?
Yeah. So, but this 7, I mean, it would have been more, but because of a huge part of that, because of this decline in interest income, people are not spending as much as they would. So it's something that going forward, I mean, it'll be constrained until maybe the liquidity surfeit in the system is taken out and TB rates rise and people can...
Hey, when's that one going to happen? Okay, wait. Look at this scenario here. You mentioned the festive period, right? And you mentioned individual. I want to talk about disposable income here and the impact. December happens, right? We have Christmas coming up. People's salaries are paid before Christmas, so about the 20th.
Yeah, typically.
They spend everything during Christmas. Gifts, parties, food. They now have the link. January is like 2 months, right? Because it's the longest month.
66 days.
Yeah, like 60-something days where you have to now wait until salaries are paid at the end of January, right? By that time, you may have borrowed to get by.
Yes.
If this inflation goes up, right, which of course pushes everything up, I believe that this now continues to constrain disposable income for the average Nigerian man and woman on the street. I mean...
Well, yes. I mean, common sense tells you that. That's
Economics 101.
Economics 101. Well, yeah, as long as inflation is rising, disposable income is constrained. I mean, and even with VAT, VAT going up, electricity tariffs predicted to go up. So you have, constrained income going to more, higher prices, or more bills, so to speak. So that is a worry. So inflation might rise even further.
Thank you for
inflation is likely to rise even further. Right. I would state that categorically.
Because the border closure, there's no outlook.
There's no end in sight.
Right.
No
it's almost perpetual.
In sight. There was a meeting.
It's almost forever.
The ECOWAS basically got together. Because Nigeria is Nigeria accounts for about 65%.
We're the big dogs. The big dogs in ECOWAS. We run ECOWAS.
The Nigerian market is critical to the production in other parts of those smaller countries.
Indeed.
Inside. So porous borders all this while you have people smuggling into Nigerian markets.
Yes.
So now everyone has to go through Apapa port.
Oh, Lord.
And there's that increased cost.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
the time that it will take you to clear your goods at the port. So it's a huge constraint to businesses in West Africa who have targeted the Nigerian market. So the OPEC, they set up a committee to, at the end, our projection is that the committee will recommend that, the customs institutions at the borders need to be strengthened so that, the borders could be, because it's cheaper to ship your goods by road, so to speak, to get from Benin Republic across the border, Niger, Chad. It's just cheaper to go via road than to go through Powerport. So, I mean, strengthening the capacity of customs is easy to say, but it's hard to do. I mean,
now, on that note, what about the almighty rail? I mean, you don't have to use roads if you have rail, right? But we're still waiting for that. That's I guess that's still part of the infrastructure
argument and affects logistics. Okay, so logistics costs are high because of the lack of infrastructure. If you build the rail, it's cheaper to. There was a report I saw some years back that says it's cheaper to get your goods from Indonesia to Lagos than to get from Lagos to Kano or Maiduguri.
Right.
Because from Kano to Maiduguri, you hire a truck, a trailer, and you have to pay for going and coming. It doesn't come back empty. It has to be. So it's just one of those infrastructural bottlenecks that you need to You need to
You need to work.
you need to work on to unconstrained businesses. It's real.
Yeah, let me ask you. Since you mentioned ECOWAS, there was I think we touched on this a day before. So I just want to get your thoughts. Nigeria asked for an extension for the consideration of the unified currency, the ECO, if you will.
The ECO.
Now, look, I just wanted to throw this out to you. Considering the need for central bank independence to manage your own currency, some folks don't believe that the ECO actually will happen, right? Because now, if we are to go into a single currency where we're sharing it with everybody else, those inflationary fears that we're just talking about now get spread all over the continent. Now, if Togo, who's this size, and Nigeria is this size, has issues with inflation, we now have to be concerned with what Togo is going. So, you think the ECO is going to happen? I mean, I don't know. I'm very skeptical here.
I honestly don't see happening in
our lifetime.
Maybe in our lifetime, in the foreseeable future. I mean, if they get some sort of workable solution, how the United Kingdom were in the Eurozone and continue with the pound, and you had the Bank of England, monetary policy.
Yeah.
Maybe that could work, but the CBN, giving up monetary policy to somebody else. I mean, it's hard to see.
Can't see
it's
it.
It's just something I can't see happening anytime soon.
Can't see it happening at all. Because then if we were to bring you back in a world where we have a but hey, let's quickly touch on the positives though. Being able to trade easily. I mean, there's the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, a unified currency bill to help. We got 10 seconds. NOSIKE, let me use my 10 seconds to thank you.
It's not
NOSIKE NWAJIDE from a financial derivatives company coming to talk to us, the Financial Derivatives Company Limited, coming to talk to us about inflation and other very interesting things going on in Nigeria. Thanks for joining us, sir. We appreciate it.